Tonight, in our coverage, satellite imagery shows the Star of David carved into Gaza's ruins. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Aisha Ashraf. Canadian Armed Forces veteran David Lavery, known as Canadian Dave, is now safe in Qatar after being detained by the Taliban in Afghanistan. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly confirmed Lavery's arrival in Doha in a social media post yesterday. She has expressed gratitude to Qatar's Foreign Affairs Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani for facilitating his release. Sources say Lavery was detained in Kabul on Remembrance Day last year. The Canadian government worked closely with Qatari mediators who arranged medical care for Lavery and helped him communicate with his family during his detention. The Veterans Transition Network celebrated his return in a statement. They say limited information was shared during his detention to avoid jeopardizing his release. Lavery has been deeply involved in humanitarian efforts, aiding Afghan migrants since before the Taliban's takeover in 2021. He also made annual visits to lay wreaths at the Canadian Monument in Kabul on Remembrance Day. Global Affairs Canada has yet to provide further details about Lavery's release. Canada is facing serious allegations of withholding critical evidence about abuse at St. Anne's Indian Residential School in Fort Albany, Ontario. Survivors claim the government intentionally failed to disclose over 12,000 records during compensation hearings under the 2006 Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement. The agreement aimed to compensate survivors for abuse, but the hidden records reportedly detail severe physical assaults, sexual humiliation, and inhumane punishments. The case is led by former Fort Albany Chief Edmund Matatawabin and other survivors. It accuses the government of bad faith and demands a process to reopen compensation claims and investigate the alleged cover-up. Lawyer Faye Brunning described the government's actions as sharp dealings spanning more than a decade. The Assembly of First Nations has thrown its support behind the survivors. It warns dismissing the case on procedural grounds would be a gross miscarriage of justice. Canada denies the allegations, with a government lawyer calling them specious and scandalous. The court has reserved its decision. Conflicting reports have surfaced about the fate of Anthony Vo, an Indiana man seeking asylum in Canada. Vo was involved in the U.S. Capitol riots in 2021. It remains unclear whether he has been pardoned. Vo fled to Canada last June to avoid serving a 9-month jail sentence for his role in the riots. He was arrested earlier this month in Whistler, British Columbia, and is now detained at an immigration holding center in Surrey. His Canadian lawyer, Robert Thibault, claims Vo is pardoned under former President Donald Trump's executive order. The order grants clemency to those convicted for offenses related to the Capitol riots. However, the Canada Border Services Agency disputes this, stating Vo's name does not appear on the official pardon list. Thibault calls a statement spectacularly false. Meanwhile, a recent ruling by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit has sent Vo's case back to federal district court for review. This could overturn his convictions for 4 nonviolent misdemeanors. However, Vo also faces a separate charge for failing to report to jail in Indiana last year. That charge and an arrest warrant issued after his arrival in Canada may fall outside the scope of Trump's clemency due to the timing of the filing. Thibault remains optimistic that the pardon could extend to related offenses. He has advised Vo to maintain his refugee claim while the matter is resolved. The Canada Border Services Agency has already deemed Vo inadmissible under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. The agency calls his claim a stalling tactic. The agency asserts it is legally obligated to remove 4 nationals deemed inadmissible. Vo's future now rests on his upcoming admissibility hearing and the outcome of his legal battles in both Canada and the U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump has signed a new executive order, raising alarms among civil rights groups. Critics say the directive could lead to a broader version of the controversial 2017 travel ban on Muslim-majority countries. The order directs officials to identify countries with insufficient vetting processes and recommends suspending their nationals from entering the U.S. It also calls for investigating foreign nationals already in the U.S. since 2021 and deport individuals deemed hostile to American values. Critics describe the order as a tool to stoke fear, break up families, and suppress dissent. Advocacy groups argue it revives discriminatory policies under the guise of national security. Experts say while mass deportations are unlikely, the directive's vague language risks wider scrutiny of immigrants and activists. They say Trump's edict could be used to target Palestinian rights advocates who are in the U.S. on student visas. Legal experts also question the administration's authority to enforce such measures. Rights groups have condemned the order as divisive and un-American. Both Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio have previously called for deporting international students. U.S. President Donald Trump is drawing sharp criticism after suggesting the population of Gaza should be forcibly displaced. Trump's remarks made during a recent speech have reignited concerns over his controversial stance on Israel's war in Gaza. The proposal is described by many as advocating for ethnic cleansing. They say it aligns with long-standing goals of Israel's far-right politicians who have called for the forced removal of Gaza's residents. Israel's finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, has welcomed Trump's suggestion. He pledges to work with the government to implement a plan for what he calls reestablishing settlements in Gaza. Critics across the political spectrum have condemned Trump's rhetoric. The Palestinian Authority calls the plan a violation of red lines and vows Palestinians would never abandon their homeland. Palestinians in Gaza also reject the idea, insisting they will remain despite the ongoing hardships. Hamas says the proposal aligns with Israeli schemes to displace Palestinians. Palestinian Islamic Jihad accuses Trump of encouraging war crimes. Jordan has reiterated its firm rejection of displacement plans. Social media users have also expressed outrage, accusing Trump of endorsing policies that violate international law and human rights. Trump's remarks come amidst fragile ceasefire efforts between Israel and Hamas. Tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians are returning home to northern Gaza through the Netzarim corridor. This marks their first journey back since the Israeli offensive began in October 2023. Videos show vehicles and carts loaded with belongings queuing near the Al-Rashid Road checkpoint along Gaza's coastline. Hamas calls the return a victory and a failure for Israeli occupation plans. However, Gaza remains devastated. 15 months of incessant attacks have left the area unrecognizable. Qatar has announced humanitarian aid delivery to Gaza, including 2,600 tons of supplies via the Erez crossing. Israel's war in Gaza has killed at least 47,306 Palestinians. More than 111,000 have been killed since October 7th. At least 11,000 civilians are missing. In the West Bank, Israeli forces continue their Jenin offensive for the 7th day. Witnesses report home demolitions, explosions, and clashes. Mohammed Jarrar, the mayor of Jenin, says 15,000 people were forced to flee their homes yesterday. Israel has arrested 2 citizens accused of spying for Iran. One suspect has allegedly shared classified military information. The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants in November last year for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Israel also faces a genocide case at the International Court of Justice for its war on the enclave. New satellite images reveal a Star of David carved into farmland in Beit Hanun, northern Gaza, alongside the numbers 7979. The numbers possibly reference Israel's Netza Yehuda battalion, which has been active in the year since October 7th. The ultra-Orthodox unit has faced allegations of human rights violations, including the death of an elderly Palestinian American in 2022. Palestinian defense experts suggest the carving is a deliberate act to mark territory. Researchers note this is not the first time Israeli forces have left religious symbols in conflict zones. Similar markings have been reported in Gaza and Lebanon. The imagery comes as Gaza faces unprecedented devastation. Nearly 2 million civilians are displaced and 60% of the enclave's buildings destroyed in the 15th-month war. While ceasefire is now in effect, concerns over Gaza's future remain. Far-right Israeli officials openly support plans to permanently displace its population. The images have sparked global condemnation. The Israeli Ministry of Defense has not responded to inquiries about the images. Anti-Muslim graffiti has been discovered on 7 buildings across London, United Kingdom. These include mosques, community centers, and a school. The Metropolitan Police are treating the incidents as hate crimes and are reviewing CCTV footage to identify those responsible. The acts of vandalism occurred between January 6th and January 25th. Police say the vandalism may be linked to a Telegram hate group allegedly offering rewards for such acts. Targeted locations include mosques in West Norwood, South Norwood, Thornton Heath, Stratford, and Leighton, as well as Nurul Islam Primary School. In response, police have increased patrols and are working closely with local faith leaders to reassure affected communities. Deputy Assistant Commissioner John Savell says hate has no place on the streets of London. The Stratford Islamic Association has expressed gratitude for the outpouring of community support. Authorities are urging anyone with information to come forward. No arrests have been made so far. The Rainbow Crosswalk in Westlock, Alberta has been painted white, and 4 flags have been removed from municipal poles in nearby Barrhead. The move follows public votes in favor of neutrality laws. The new laws restrict public property to only white crosswalks and official, national, provincial, or town flags. Plans are underway to redo crosswalks that will be supportive of pride, accessibility, and other groups while adhering to the new guidelines. The votes in Westlock and Barrhead were closely contested, with just over half of voters supporting the changes. Proponents, like the Westlock neutrality team, argue that neutrality fosters inclusivity by avoiding divisive symbols. Critics, however, believe the laws suppress diversity and erase meaningful representation. Westlock Mayor John Kramer has expressed concerns that the changes could harm community relations. Neutrality movements are gaining traction in Canada. In Alberta, residents of Leduc are petitioning against rainbow crosswalks, while similar debates have caused divisions in Ontario. Supporters of neutrality claim that decorative crosswalks and non-government flags create unnecessary division. A blood drive in Montreal is paying tribute to the victims of the 2017 Quebec City mosque attack as the 8th anniversary approaches. The drive is organized during the 7th Muslim Awareness Week. It carries a slogan, "Give blood to share blood," and aims to inspire community support. On January 29, 2017, 6 men were killed during prayers in a terrorist attack on the Quebec mosque. 19 others were seriously injured. Co-founder Salam Al-Musawi says the initiative is a way to honor the victims. He says many of them left behind widows and children, while some survivors remain permanently paralyzed. This event runs until Friday. Fawzi Razagwi from Hema, Quebec is urging people to donate. She says every 80 seconds, someone in Quebec needs blood. Each donation can save up to 3 lives. The blood drive is one of several events planned for Muslim Awareness Week, including seminars at McGill University and a commemoration at City Hall. Donors can book appointments online at Hema Quebec locations across Greater Montreal. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News Canada. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.